guys, welcome to the video. John Bodine here with Redemptive Psych. Today we're talking about the needs of the ENFJ. Now, if you haven't seen the other videos or the introductory video, I recommend you watching that. That'll give you foundational information to get the most out of this video. In this series, we're going over 3 archetypes: the hero, inferior, critic, which I believe are the most effective and efficient way to capitalize on the needs. Needs are 2 ways. We have needs to give and to receive. Okay. To receive a need is what we generally think of when we think about needs. I need them to do this for me. I need to do this for myself. Versus giving, I need them to be receptive to the things that I want to give them, to have a receptive audience for the way that I am. Needs have this duality to them. And to maximize meeting the needs of the types, the text in black is what that function needs to receive. The text in blue is what that function can provide. Extroverted feeling hero. The hero both needs expression and recognition, being our powerhouse tool, the engine of our psyche. The hero needs space to express itself and the praise and acknowledgement to be recognized for what it can do. The hero is very capable, very strong. And the hero function, our hero functions are not always enabled in society or in our family, in our environment, because of various reasons. But if you can create space for the hero function to express itself and to recognize it, it'll perpetuate. If you give them room to express, they will demonstrate, they will express the best version of themselves over time. And then when you see that, then it encourages them to express it more, okay? So if you can do just one of these, it's gonna help the other one be met as well. Extroverted feeling hero, okay? ENFJs and ESFJs both have FE hero. Whereas the ESFJ is more about being the rock and being the supportive person. The ENFJ does that too, but it's a little different. ENFJs care more about building people up. They want to build up independence in other people. So at times they can be a little more tough-loving than an ESFJ because they want to make sure that that person has the skills and the tools and the knowledge and the ability basically to not be a burden to other people. And that might sound a little harsh, but this is the standard that the ENFJ holds themselves to. They don't want to be a burden to other people because they're sensitive to the burdens of other people. So through FE Hero, they want to build up the ability, the value, the sense of worth, the tools, all of that in other people to lift themselves up, to be an individual who's self-sufficient, self-regulating, things like that. What does FE Hero provide? Okay, help, heal, and educate. I'm going to put these all together because this is how their hero works more uniquely. They go out of their way to learn, to study. They often get their degrees or certifications. They really value education because they want to be regarded as having what it takes to have a voice that matters. This is both their inferior and their hero speaking here. So they want to help, they want to heal. They're pursuing the tools and the knowledge to find healing for themselves, first of all, but mostly to help other people. They're so externally focused. All the NFJs and the STPs are, but especially the NFJs, they are so sensitive and aware of the people around them, how they're feeling, what they're doing, what their experience is like, where things are misaligned, where some of the pain is. They're very sensitive to other people's pain. They're extremely empathetic, which is one of the reasons they want to help heal people. But again, the angle here is through education, to give you tools and knowledge and perspectives that are going to help you take those on for yourself and inform you and build you up with that truth to be able to take on life a little bit better. Okay, and then lead. They are natural leaders. Often ENFJs are great leaders and inspiring leaders. They have a vision within I Parent. They have a hope of how the world through education and self-understanding can help. Everyone can help improve each other, okay? They are idealistic. They are one of the idealist types, the NF types, right? So they care about pursuing the future, being a leader for that future. Now, what does FE Hero need from us, or need from other people? The biggest thing here is inviting help, okay? They want to help, they want to serve, they want to help give you things that you need to meet your needs, but also to build things up within you. So if you have the opportunity to have an ENFJ help you, if you invite help, that helps meet the need of their FE hero. Inviting help is important and helps them feel like their thoughts and their experience are valuable to you. Once they feel that they are valuable to you, they will feel a lot more comfortable, a lot more at ease, and willing to share themselves with you. And guess what? A lot of ENFJs have a lot of wisdom, a lot of knowledge, particularly based off life experience one, but also all the ways they've gone out of their way to equip themselves with knowledge and education to help you. Then providing feedback is also really important. Because they're not necessarily aware if like they're doing a good job or not, the ENFJs especially struggle with this. They're so externally focused, they don't have a great sense of internal evaluation. In fact, it's mostly negative internal evaluation of they're aware of how they can do things better, or maybe this thing isn't perfect, blah, blah, blah. They struggle to feel like they're doing a good job. So pointing out specifics of how they helped you or how they did a good job, but make it about your experience. Hey, you know, what you said really impacted me like this. I felt this when you said that. That helps communicate to FE Hero. The language that FE Hero speaks in, if you can provide feedback and a bit of your reaction and how you felt about it and how that changed your perspective or how it freed something up, that feedback is really important for FE Hero to feel like, oh, okay, I actually am doing an okay job in this space. Next is the inferior. TI inferior, ENFJs are worried, are anxious that they don't have the thinking prowess to think through a problem well. They're worried that other people are not going to value their thoughts. They struggle sometimes to communicate their thoughts. Sometimes they overcompensate by dominating a conversation, leaving no room for anyone else. But sometimes they also will not say what they actually think, or are not willing to look like they don't know what they're talking about as they're stumbling through to find the answer. Both of those can be true. The inferior needs two things. It needs reassurance, because the inferior is like an infant, okay? It's easily thrown off. It's easily dysregulated. Reassurance and exploration. The opportunity to fill out what they need to fill out. Think of, like I said, the inferior being an infant when it's crawling around and find something that's interesting and like wants to share it with you. If you can do that with all the inferior functions, it's going to help them feel comfortable and comfortable enough to explore. Like I talked about in the ESTP video, if you can help move someone's inferior functions into a mind place where they feel like they can do no wrong, where they're willing to use it, okay? That's when they're willing to use it, when they feel like their inferior has what it takes, like they're willing to explore, like they can do no wrong. That's where we engage with our inferior function. So TI inferior for the ENFJ provides a microscopic validation. The way TI inferior works, the way the inferior functions work, is it takes the smallest version of something to dissect all the little pebbles, and eventually over time they're going to build something of extreme substance and solidness and validity, especially when the ENFJ is not taking shortcuts. They care a lot about getting the right answer, being accurate, being precise. Okay, they know the harm that will happen or that can happen when they help people based on false things. That can cause destruction. They're very aware of that. So they want to make sure that whatever they think, whatever they believe in, whatever they give to other people is verified, is validated on the smallest possible level. They can be phenomenal teachers because of that, and healers if they have gone through the time, as they do, to think through everything carefully. Related to that is a kind of a sacred relationship with knowledge. I talked about this in the Understanding the ENFJ video, giving the example of this personality space. A lot of times ENFJs struggle to embrace this because they know how consequential knowledge is. Let me say it that way. Once they accept something as true, it changes so much about them, okay? So this is why they're very careful with verifying and thinking through things on their own. They have to think through it on their own. If you try and pressure them to accept something and not encourage them to think through it on their own, they might succumb to the pressure or they might not, but it's going to cause damage in the long run because it's betraying a part of their psyche, and they kind of know that instinctively. So allow them to have a sacred relationship with knowledge, because what they give, what they think through is usually so refined and so substantial that is very valuable. Now, what TI inferior for the ENFJ needs to receive, number one, take them seriously. Okay, this is true for all the inferior functions, to take them seriously. The inferior function is usually not impressive at first. Okay, it's usually very it's insecure. The inferior function has to do it their own way in this very microscopic layer. So it doesn't look impressive at first, but take the inferior is like the sacredness of the psyche. That's how I view it. At least. Take their thinking seriously. They take it extremely seriously. Sometimes maybe a little too seriously, and fair enough, but take them seriously. Take the inferior seriously. It has all the potential in the world, and yes, it hasn't maximized that yet, but they can become basically anything if they commit their life to truth, right? And recognizing that the road to actually being helpful and healing and building people up stands on the truth and their ability to be accurate and correct. Next, encourage to share. So I talked about this briefly, but some ENFJs dominate conversations and don't let other people talk because they feel threatened by other people who are confident with their thinking, and they're kind of, it can frustrate them. But other times they will also not say things because they're afraid of being thought of as being stupid, or their opinion not being valid, not being valuable to others, okay? So encouraging them to share, recognizing the value of what they're sharing, encourages them to share more, encourages their inferior to come out more, okay? Someone like myself with TE Trickster and not the greatest attention span with SI Demon, I've learned to do this, and I can do it a little bit. I can't do it forever, but I've noticed that if I allow the ENFJ to speak and to hold a positive regard for their thoughts, they will open up more and they will be willing to be vulnerable. ENFJs especially really struggle to be vulnerable. So if you can give them the opportunity to share and to recognize the value, the quality of their thinking, the effort that they've put in, okay? And if they're wrong about something, that's okay. What I've said about the ENFJs in the past is that they don't usually mind if you disagree with them, as long as they feel like you understand them. As long as you understand exactly what they're saying, okay? And then respond to that with a couple pushbacks or some other evidence, they usually don't mind that because the inferior wants to be taken seriously. So you treat it seriously for a period of time. It can take some feedback, some pushback, just not too much at one time. It needs to go process it. Related to that, lastly here is understanding intention. Okay, this is true really for all the FJs, but especially the ENFJ and the INFJ, I think. Some of the times when they say something or share something with their TI, because of TE Demon, it doesn't always come out in the most articulate way or in the most comprehensible way. So a practice that you can commit to, if you're able to do this, is to understand the intention behind what they're saying, okay? Whenever someone says something, it's very easy to nitpick something. I'm like, oh, you know, that one little teeny piece of what you said doesn't align with this, so I'm gonna punch that. Don't do that. Try and understand the spirit of what they're saying. Try and understand under what they're saying. This is kind of like emulating some extroverted thinking, but I think most people can do this just with a little bit of patience of like, okay, I heard that and I don't agree with that, but is that actually what they're saying? Okay, maybe their example wasn't great, or maybe that little sentence wasn't great, but what are they actually saying? Trying to understand what they're saying is like the most important thing to bond with an ENFJ through their inferior. Put some effort into understanding, truly understanding what they're saying. Okay, lastly here, NE Critic. NE Critic, like all the critics, can be pretty rough. ENFJs can be pretty controlling at times because they're very careful with the path that they choose, the vision that they choose. They're kind of aware of some of the consequences that can come, and they're very critical of other people's choices, of other people's visions or pursuits, mostly because they're projecting recklessness onto other people. And sometimes they're right. Sometimes people don't think through their path at all. So the ENFJ's critic, like all critics, can be rough to deal with, but it can also be very wise. The critic needs a combination of affirmation and evidence. Affirmation means that recognize the intention of the critic is to do something good, okay? The critic, like I've talked about, is the spiky thing that underneath that is this little idealistic child that's been wounded through life, and the critic hopes for a future in which people care about the things that the critic cares about. It's pointing out and criticizing things because it recognizes the dangers inherent in, for example, people not being careful and intentional about what they pursue and who they pursue. And then evidence, okay? Show evidence of you. If you want to connect with any critic, show evidence of how you are careful and intentional with what you pick and what you're pursuing. You can also show evidence if you want to challenge the ENFJ. They have this thing sometimes where they will bash other people's choices, but they don't always recognize how some of the choices that they've made have actually put them in really bad spots. So if they're being like that, which sometimes they can be, turning that mirror onto them and saying, you know, I remember a couple times where this didn't work out for you, and I don't know why you're bashing me for that. They will usually respond to that pretty well, as long as you're targeting the critic. Be careful if you're targeting the inferior. The inferior is kind of volatile. So anyway, in regards to what any critic needs to receive, communicate control, okay? One of the reasons they're so effective leaders is because they can lead the way. They can control the group and move forward. Sometimes they overstep those. Sometimes they are too controlling, dismissive of other people's opinions at times, but also their intentions, what they think people, what they think the path should be. If they're overstepping, if they're being too controlling, give them feedback. Hey, I feel like you're not giving me space to breathe. I know you need space to think out loud. I need space to think about my future. That's how I'm oriented. If you can communicate appropriately with ENFJ, most of the ENFJs I've met are really open to that, actually. They want that feedback. They want to know, and they are not always conscious of how controlling they can be. And sometimes their control is a relief as a leader, right? But sometimes it is too much. So communicating that when it's too much is very valuable. Related to that is challenge to explore. Okay, the critic in general is quick to jump on things that it sees are like, ooh, that's not right, or that's not right. It forgets that inside it in of itself is a little child, and what the child needs is to explore. And if you need to explore and the ENFJ is kind of axing that and not letting you explore, communicate your intention, okay? For example, I think I said this in the Understanding the ENFJ video as well. If you're trying to explore some ideas or some opportunities or some options, you can just tell them, hey, I'm not committed to this thing. I'm just exploring it. I need to feel through it. This is my thought process, okay? So in general, if you can just communicate with them, it's going to save you and them a lot of trouble. Okay, what does any critic provide? This is a source of their pragmatism somewhat. It's part of their pragmatism, practical sight, okay? They kind of see how some of the things people want or some of the things they're pursuing are just going to fall apart in 5 minutes. They are aware, because of how careful they are with constructing their future and their plan, how much it takes to build a great plan. And they see people thinking about something for 2 minutes and be like, oh, I'm going to go do that or do this. And any critic's like, that's a terrible plan. And a lot of times it is. And they can see some of the bad consequences of that. So this is a source of their practical feedback to people of, hey, that's not going to work. And here's why. And that's probably going to happen to you. And they're often right. Any critic also reveals commitment. So this is a combined trait that comes from FE Hero and SE Child, testing the strength and the character of other people, but also seeing their intention. Also, because they're so careful with how they plan things and their forward movement, they're aware of how much energy and commitment it takes, okay? And they will challenge people's commitment to a path. Now, they may give you freedom and they may let you go, especially if you've proven that you are very committed to it. They themselves know, as a high introverted intuition user with their NI parent, how willful they can be, and that there are people that didn't believe in them and they went anyway and accomplished what they sought out. If they sense that commitment in you, they will often let you go and encourage you and help you forward. But they reveal commitment, because most of the people, most of the time, who say they want things don't really want it or are not really that willing to sacrifice for it. The ENFJ knows sacrifice. They know how much it takes to sacrifice to pursue their goals. It can take everything. And they're aware that most people are not willing to let go of the things that they would need to let go of in order to accomplish their goal. So they reveal commitment. They reveal really people's lack of commitment and help them reconsider what they thought that they wanted. And then lastly here is just kind of a general warning, okay? Any critic as an individual function for both the ENJs is sort of oracle-like. It's like this disagreeable oracle person. I mean disagreeable in the big five sense of being more assertive, of saying, hey, that's not going to work out. Because they have foresight for obstacles. They can anticipate the obstacles. They can see how that plan or intention or vision or pursuit may fall apart because of these things. So if you can listen to them and appreciate their ability for their foresight, it can help you get past the critic. And if you can demonstrate a capacity to be careful and intentional with your choices, it's going to help gain respect in the eyes of the ENFJ. If they're being over controlling, you can communicate that. Most ENFJs will respect that if you provide feedback. Some will double down, and that's probably an ENFJ that you may not want anything to do with. But again, most ENFJs I've met are very receptive to feedback. So if you can just, again, communicate with them, it's usually going to go a very, very long way. Anyway, guys, that's the needs of the ENFJ. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.